What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my Week 8 NCAA football power rankings. Let's jump into the video here. Dropping from my rankings, you got Utah, OU, and USC, all with losses. They're falling from the rankings because of those losses, obviously. And, the only team that's staying in the others receiving votes is Oklahoma because they are a decent team, but they got a tough schedule ahead of them. And I got to put Vandy here. They're just missing in on the cut. Same with ASU with a big win over Utah. Nebraska and Syracuse are those teams that are just kind of lingering right there. They can pull off one win, a good win, against maybe a ranked team or a team of their caliber. They're definitely jumping into those rankings. 25 through 21. And I'm putting Navy, SMU, and Army in. And that's due to the fact that these teams are earning their spot. And Navy obviously had a bye week last week, but they're 5-0, undefeated, so they deserve in. Army, same thing. 6-0 now, destroy UAB at home, 44-10, and they're probably going to move up next week after they beat East Carolina. SMU jumps in because of their bye week and what their resume speaks of, and some other teams falling. And then Michigan and Illinois here at 23 and 24. Illinois, honestly, it could have maybe dropped them out, but they only have one loss compared to two in Michigan with that overtime win over Purdue. But whoever loses that game definitely is dropping out of the rankings. And Michigan obviously has to figure out who is going to be able to actually throw the ball, where Illinois has to figure out how their defense can play better. 20 through 16. And this is kind of the crapshoot. I think you could put any of these teams anywhere at this point in the season because, you got Pitt undefeated, but they really haven't been a really good undefeated team. And they, are beating the California by 2 points at home, which I think they could have beaten more. Missouri destroys UMass at UMass. Kind of figured that was going to happen. Now they get Auburn at home. Kansas State survived a wild one in Colorado, and that's why I'm moving them up because I thought Colorado was going to win that game at home, but they did not. And K-State walks out with a victory. Good victory there, and they go on the road to West Virginia, which is a tough place to play. Boise State obviously has the Heisman favorite, Genty, and as long as he is healthy and can put up his 200 yards and three touches a game, this team's gonna be really good. Then Indiana, moving up, even after a bye, they're moving up, and this team could shock some people if they can beat Nebraska here at home, move to 7-0. They could easily walk in to the Horseshoe in Ohio State 7-0, and who knows how that game would turn out. 15 through 11. You got three SEC teams here at the back end with A&M staying put after their bye week. Ole Miss, tough loss on the road at LSU, falling out of the top 10, but 14 I think is very fair with their two losses that they've suffered this year. Tennessee, yeah, they're out of my top 10, as a Vol fan. It's hard to see this team perform. I get a win as a win at home, but against Florida, they definitely should have taken care of business there. It should have been a lot higher than it actually was. And then just having them go to overtime just kind of speaks to this team and where they are right now in the season. And they get Alabama at home. It's gonna be a good game. Whoever loses that game might be out of the SEC running at that point. Notre Dame at 12, they're staying put. Obviously, they beat Stanford at home. Good win there. At Georgia Tech, a little tougher game, I think it'll be than Stanford because Georgia Tech's playing some good football right now. But I do expect Notre Dame to get that win. And they're still a team that I think can make the playoff even after that ugly loss at home to a MAC school at the beginning of the year. Then Iowa State, give them some credit for what they're doing. Currently 6-0 in the Big 12 and really taking the Big 12 by storm right now. At West Virginia, like I said earlier in the video, it's a tough place to play. It was a tough first half for them, but they played well in the second half, and that's why Iowa State walked out with a victory. UCF at home, going to be a tough opponent coming into the home crowd, but Iowa State, they're on a roll right now. 10 through 6, and I think this is where you can debate putting some teams in different places. I'm keeping Clemson at 10, not really a big win there at Wake Forest. Virginia is a little tougher than Wake Forest will be this year, but Clemson should still take care of business. BYU, I have to move them into the top 10 after their win against Arizona at home. Dominant win. I thought they would win this game, but by that much, didn't think that was going to happen. They get Oklahoma State, who's really struggling. They should breeze past them. LSU, great win at home in OT against Ole Miss. First play, walk-off touchdown. Go on the road to face Arkansas, which could be a trap game for them. But I think LSU, they're a team in the SEC that I think could somehow sneak their way into an SEC championship game because they don't have an SEC loss yet. Yeah, their loss was at the beginning of the year, but people don't realize or forget at least that LSU is still undefeated in conference play. Same with Miami, same thing. They're coming out of the bye week. They're going to play Louisville on the road. They've really started to struggle here these last few weeks. And kind of same for Miami. They're still undefeated, but I think that'll be a great game. Then Alabama falls out of my top five after an ugly win against South Carolina at home. And they were down 14 in this game at one point. Had to come back, storm back, win that game. And it's just not the same Alabama we've seen in recent years. I get it's a new culture and new head coach, all that stuff, but the product on the field is still the same in some ways. But this Alabama team just kind of looks like they are not really in sync in some ways. But that game against Georgia, they were in sync. And if we can see that Alabama team, this Alabama team might run the table at that point. Then 5 through 1, Georgia stays at 5 with a good win at home against Mississippi State. They go on the road to face Texas in a huge game this week for SEC implications, playoff ranking implications, all that stuff. And then a game last week that was huge, Ohio State and Oregon. Oregon squeaks out a 1-point win against Ohio State at home, and that's why the Buckeyes fall to 4. Oregon goes to 2. And because of Will Howard not knowing how much time was left in the game, the Ducks win that game. And I think, yeah, it may have not been the best decision in the moment, but it's a big moment for him. I'm sure he's going to learn from it and won't make that mistake twice later in the year. But Ohio State goes into a bye week, really getting to mull over that loss, and I think they're going to learn from it and be better team out of the bye. Penn State, same thing. They go on the road, beat USC in the Coliseum in OT. They go into a bye 6-0. I think they're very happy with where they are at this point in the season. And that's why I'm moving them up to 3. Definitely didn't think that they'd be 6-0 just looking at their schedule, but Penn State has proven me wrong, proving a lot of other people wrong as well. And then Texas, of course, staying at 1 with a dominating win in the rivalry game against Oklahoma. And I thought it definitely was going to be a lot closer. As you saw in my last video, the lock of the week, I had Oklahoma plus 15.5. And, that didn't nowhere close to happening. Obviously, 31-point victory. That's a lot in a rivalry game, but now they get Georgia at home, and I expect that one to be just a little bit closer than 31 points. But I think that's probably the best game we're going to get. Maybe close second would be that Oregon Ohio State game, but I expect this Texas Georgia game to probably be one of the best games of the year. That's going to be it for my Week 8 power rankings. Check back next week to see where your favorite team ranks and where other teams rank after a big week of college football. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.